There are people who live double lives. We read about them in newspapers. We watch documentaries about them. We shake our heads and say, "How does someone do that?" And then we turn the page, because it feels like something that happens to other people, in other families, in other towns. My name is James, and for the first 44 years of my life, I was one of those other people, the kind who turns the page, until the morning I got a phone call from a woman I had never met, telling me that my mother had just died. The problem was, my mother had already been dead for 6 years. My mother's name was Ruth. She raised me alone in a small house in coastal Maine. My father left before I was old enough to remember him. It was always just the two of us. She was not a warm woman in the obvious ways. She didn't say, "I love you" easily. She didn't ask about my feelings. She cooked dinner every night and made sure I was clothed and educated and never once went without. That was her language. Presence, provision, reliability. I respected her enormously. I'm not sure I ever fully knew her. In 2015, she was diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer. She told me on a Tuesday evening, matter-of-factly, the way she told me most things. She died 14 months later, March 2017. I was 38 years old. I handled everything: the hospice, the arrangements, the small service. She had few friends and no other family, as far as I knew. I packed up her house, I sold it, I grieved in the quiet, functional way that children of quiet, functional mothers tend to grieve. And then I moved forward, because that is what she would have wanted. For 6 years, that was the complete story of my mother's life. Until the phone call. It was a Thursday morning in February 2023. I was at my desk at work. The number was unfamiliar. An area code I didn't recognize. Connecticut, I would later find out. I almost didn't answer. The woman on the other end introduced herself as Linda Marsh. She spoke carefully, slowly, the way people speak when they are delivering news they have been rehearsing for some time. She said, "I'm so sorry to call you out of nowhere. My name is Linda. I believe your mother was also my mother. Her name was Ruth. She passed away 3 days ago. I've been trying to find you for a week." The room went very quiet. Not silent. I could still hear the office around me. Phones ringing. Someone laughing down the hall. But inside, absolute stillness. I said, "My mother died in 2017. There was a pause. Then Linda said, "I know. She told me about that. She said she had a son named James in Maine and that she had told him she was dying so she could disappear. She wasn't sick, James. She faked it. She's been living here with us for the past 6 years, under a different name." I put the phone down on my desk. I did not hang up. I just set it down and stared at the wall for a very long time. I called Linda back 20 minutes later. We spoke for 2 hours. What she told me, I am still to this day trying to fully absorb. My mother, Ruth, had left Maine in 2017, not in a coffin, but in a car. She had staged her death with meticulous care. A death certificate obtained through means I still don't fully understand. A small private service with no open casket. A story about wishing to be cremated immediately. No loose ends. She drove to Connecticut. She became Margaret. And Margaret had a life. A real one. She had met a widower named George Marsh at a church group in 2018. They had married quietly in 2019. She had become stepmother to his 2 adult children. Linda and her brother Paul. She had a garden, a dog, a book club on Thursdays. She had, by all accounts, been the warmest, most present, most loving version of herself that she had apparently never managed to be with me. Linda described her, Margaret, as generous, funny, deeply kind. Every word landed like a small, separate blow. George had died of a stroke in late 2022, and my mother, Margaret, Ruth, whoever she was, had died 3 days before Linda's phone call. Peacefully, in her sleep. Leaving behind, apparently, a handwritten letter addressed to James, Maine, with my name on it. Linda mailed it to me. It arrived on a Wednesday. Plain envelope. My name in her handwriting I would have recognized anywhere. I sat with it unopened on my kitchen table for 2 days. On Friday evening, I made myself a cup of coffee. I sat down, and I read it. I will not share every word she wrote. Some things belong only to the people they were written for. But I will tell you what she said in the beginning. She wrote, James. If you are reading this, then Linda found you, which means she is braver than I was. I owe you an explanation I should have given you when I was alive and could have looked you in the eye. I was a coward, I know that. But I want you to understand, leaving was not about you. It was never about you. It was about me, about the person I had become and the person I still believed I could be. I could not become her in Maine. I had tried for 38 years. I needed to disappear to find out if I was still capable of being someone worth knowing. She went on for 4 more pages. I read every word, twice, and then I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and sat in my kitchen until the sun came up. People ask how I feel about it, and I find the question almost impossible to answer, because the answer changes depending on the day. Some days, I'm angry, furious in fact, at the audacity of it, at the years I spent grieving a woman who was alive and gardening in Connecticut and attending a Thursday book club and being everything to people she had known for 5 years, while I believed she was ash in an urn on my bookshelf. Some days, I am something closer to grief. Not for the woman who died 3 days before Linda called me, but for the woman who felt so trapped in her own life that faking her death seemed like the only door left open. That kind of pain. I can recognize it, even if I cannot excuse it. And some days, the rarest days, I feel something that I can only describe as gratitude, because Linda and I still talk. Every few weeks, a phone call, sometimes longer. She lost a stepmother. I lost a mother. Twice, it turns out. We are both trying to make sense of the same woman from completely opposite angles. There is something unexpectedly comforting about that. About being known by someone who loved the same complicated, impossible person. Just a different version of her. I still have the urn on my bookshelf. I know now it doesn't contain her. I haven't decided what to do with it yet. Maybe that's strange. Maybe it isn't. What I have decided is that I am done trying to understand my mother through the lens of what she did to me. Because the truth is, she was a person long before she was my mother. A person with a history I never asked about, with wounds I never thought to look for, with a self she had buried so completely that she needed to bury her entire life just to find it again. I don't know if she found it. I hope she did. I hope the garden was everything she needed it to be. I hope the book club made her laugh. I hope George Marsh made her feel like the person she always wanted to be. I hope, in the end, She got enough time as Margaret to make peace with everything she left behind as Ruth. Because the alternative, the idea that she went through all of that and still didn't find what she was looking for, is the only version of this story I genuinely cannot bear. If something in this stayed with you, leave it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you are carrying something you have never told anyone, you are in the right place. I'll see you in the next one.